4, 3, 2, 1.
That was okay. Ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
I am hopeful for this episode. Welcome to episode 15 of the Mosby Learning Podcast. Guy at work today asked me if it was he said, "What's up with that Mosby thing you're doing?" And I said, "Oh, shoot. Maybe it doesn't translate. I don't know." But so Mosby Learning is the name of this episode, this podcast, mosby.ca/015. And my name is Dan Hirt. I'm calling in from Mississauga, Ontario.
Oh.
We didn't discuss. Yeah, Gibbs, you go now.
Gibbs, Texas.
Gibbs, Texas. I love it. All right. Anybody else out there?
Yeah, it's Eli from the greater metropolitan Detroit area.
There you go. How big is greater? Where does that go out to?
Well, I need to say that because I literally, like, if you say, like, I'm on the outskirts. Like, I technically could be the greater Flint area, too.
So, like, on 8.5 mile? Is that
like,
where you're at, the outskirts of Detroit?
If it was a Venn diagram, I'd be like the greater Flint area and the greater Metro Detroit area where they just touch. That's basically where I live.
All right, how's your drinking water over there?
Mine's fine. Mine's fantastic. Yeah. It's the best well water I've ever had.
You're off the grid, water-wise. That's good. All right, we're not here to talk about drinking water, ladies and gentlemen. We'll leave that to Mark Ruffalo. What we are here to talk about is all things learning this week. Last week, myself and Gibbs, we chatted about a couple fun things. We had a nice little chit-chat there, and in this episode, we're gonna hear a couple different things. We're gonna, as you come to probably know and love, a couple headlines. We'll touch on those, and we'll also touch on. Oh, I have a poem today, guys.
Oh Lord!
Wow! Thank you for the support. Not only that, we're going to touch on. We're going to touch on something that hopefully might help some people out next year with the Can Training Fix It, and it's kind of relevant to when you might be hearing this episode. You're going to hear this. This will go live, I think, on Christmas Eve or awful close to it. So I guess we'll just start there. Do you guys have your Christmas shopping done? Gibbs, how about you shop late?
I always shop early because I don't really like people. So
hey, there you go.
You know how that goes.
You're perfect for a podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Awesome for a podcast. Actually, I did buy like little last gifts. If that
like stocking stuff or sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so stocking stuffer kind of stuff today, but, you know.
Hey, let me ask you, so do you actually do stockings there?
Yes.
Okay, so the things that you stuff into the stocking, does that get wrapped as well?
This year I didn't.
You did not wrap things that went into
lazy.
Stockings? Okay.
Yeah, last year, but most years I tend to do it. I definitely tend to. Do wrap the gifts, but you know what? You want to hear a fascinating story?
As long as it's quick.
Yeah. So I've had the same since I've been probably 3 or 4 years old, right?
When you say stocking stuffer, do you mean the stocking?
Stocking.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like that's the most. Yeah. Okay. Good.
Stocking, and so we moved houses, and I hadn't found that stocking. Like, I lost it somewhere in the move, right? And I was just like, crud, that's one of the few things I've had since I've been a little girl. And then this year, I was like, well, let's put this stocking holder out now. You know how you have the things you put on the fireplace?
Sure.
I had to explain because, from Canada and stuff.
We have fireplaces up here. Thank you very much.
I think they invented them.
And
it's possible. The chimenea? That wasn't us, though.
So I opened the box of this stocking holder. I haven't used in like 2 or 3 years. And there was the stocking.
Shut the front door.
Yes. And it's the
Mystery
true...
solved.
Well, you wouldn't know, Dan, because, you're 7. But it was the true 1970s stocking. Like total 70s stocking.
So was there like a fish bowl built into the bottom of it, or what does that mean?
No, so it's like the red, you know how all stockings are like really nice and stuff now, and they all have like patterns and stuff?
Yes.
Well, this one's like red and has this plastic, like nasty looking Santa on it.
Wow.
And not only that, and then back in the day, there used to be this thing called some kind of painting thing that women did with tubes and stuff. But my mom like spelled my name out in glue and
like puffy paint,
and threw glitter all over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, so just like when I go to the dentist, I'm glad I was born when I was and not when you were.
I'm just saying.
Mr. Berant, Eli, do you an early shopper, late shopper? What do you do?
I spread it all out. I'm targeted by those Instagram ads. They know I'm a sucker for them. So I get some good ideas, and I brought the white elephant to a halt last week with a gift I saw and bought over the summer specifically for that item. It's a thing called a flask cap.
Flask cap, okay.
And it's a cap that you put on your Yeti tumbler.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
And it holds 5 ounces of hard liquor.
Ooh, that would be
and
fun.
It's got a button that you press on the top of it that drops a shot of it into your drink.
Oh my gosh.
So was your gift the one that everyone kept trading for?
It got picked really late. Because it was in a small inconspicuous box, and then the last person who had the pick got it. And but it was it brought people. But it was it brought people. It stopped. We have 55 people in this thing. It brought it to a halt.
Dang.
Everybody was circled around it, and was
How big is your training group? If there's
my training
people.
group. My training group is part of HR, so it's actually part of the whole HR team. This was for. So, they were like, "Where do you find this? Where do you get this? Can you get it on Amazon?" I had field all kinds of questions. Gosh. But what's funny is when they first opened it, no one knew what it was, and I had to do the 30-minute
demo,
the 30-second commercial for it, what it is, and then everybody was like, "Oh my god!" So,
it's like an infomercial.
I keep my eye out for things all year long, unique little things that can bring that in.
Look at him; he's a proactive shopper.
Oh yeah.
I think I finalized our shopping today. We had most of the kids' stuff done. I had my wife's stuff done. I get her taken care of real early. I keep a list all year long, every time. I take all those notes, and I'm never without ideas to get her for her birthday or Christmas.
I am super impressed. That's what I do.
Cynthia, these are the people that Mosby Learning brings to a larger group.
These are the people I need to hang out with, not you and Adam.
That's exactly right. On a weekly. Hey, come on now. If you and him start hanging out together, I'm going to be very upset about this.
He actually makes sense and plans.
Last week, to the surprise of everybody, we did not have a note from Portland because
I was on the show.
Ship. And so because you were on the show. Now the thing is, last week, Gibbs, it was just you and me, and we do not get a note from Portland. So that
means
Adam.
2 days.
I think what we need to do, and what I need to get a note out to Portland, make sure there's not a gas leak or something out there, just to see that everything's still going all right.
We have to sign
changes around this topic, but go ahead.
Is Portland like Springfield? We don't know where it is?
Illinois? It's which one? No, it's Portland, Oregon. Yeah.
It's Portland, Oregon, not Portland, Maine, or Portland, Michigan.
We do know there's a Portland, Michigan. It's not that one, that's for sure.
It's a hamlet, I think they call it.
The hamlet of Portland, Michigan. Let's move into the headlines, ladies and gentlemen. Here, we have a couple things to kind of go through. Now, there is one. It feels like I'm finding as we're doing these episodes, I'm definitely finding there's themes to the things that we talk about. And it's not that I'm trying to find these particular themes. It's just that the headlines that are out there fall into certain groups, and we have yet another virtual reality one here. And it was a short video. We'll of course include this in the show notes, but I don't know if you guys had a quick chance to look at that virtual language learning video.
That's the one I did not get to.
Okay, so Gibbs, did you check that out?
I was busy looking.
Okay, so Gibbs, did you check that out?
I was busy looking at the psych catchphrases. Sorry.
That's terrific. Okay, so
that's messed up.
Hey, Dan, you can suck it.
Thank you very much. So why don't I give you guys the 30-second version of the 1-minute video? The gist was, now this is education, secondary education, so not corporate L&D, but obviously there's a bit of overlap, and especially when VR is concerned, there's some similarities here. We've talked about cop, police officer, peace officer, I don't know what we call them, cop training. But this is kids learning languages. So they put the headset on, and they're now in like a little, it's a room where they have to speak French or whatever it is to solve the problem and to solve the mystery. I think it's like stolen art.
So like an escape room?
I don't think it's like an escape room per se. No, it's just like a contained environment because it looked like kind of a cheap situation. But I think if I can, since you guys didn't get the opportunity to review this, I'll just give you my thoughts on it. We can move on. I think this is actually a scenario where who gives a shit? Like, this does not belong in a VR situation. I want to be clear because there's things that we've talked about in the past that, I haven't prefaced the material appropriately. So this is a virtual reality goggle situation where teenagers, young adults are putting these headsets on. They're going into a virtual room or collection of rooms where they're trying to use their language to solve a crime or a mystery. That, I'm afraid, is probably not something where VR is appropriate. The only reason that I think it might work is because let's say we have a room of, it's got to do with scale, but not really the usefulness of the material, something where VR is appropriate. The only reason that I think it might work is because let's say we have a room of, it's got to do with scale, but not really the usefulness of the material. So we have a room, let's say, of 20-something kids in there. What they do is they roll this cart in that has all of course, their Oculus branded headsets, and then kids put them on and they check it out. So there is a lot less actual physical space taken up compared to a room full of computer terminals. You know what I mean?
So
I think that's the only benefit here.
Why wouldn't they put them like in the setting? So if they're trying to learn Italian, why isn't the virtual training as if they're in Italy, going through trying to eat at a restaurant or something?
It was very simple animation. I think that'd be perfectly appropriate, but they were trying, like I say, to solve the there was a missing painting. This might be more helpful, when it's actually relevant and pertinent to the situation, not like, oh, look, there's a nail hanging on the wall where there's a missing painting. But like I say, I think the only value here that the actual VR headset brings is not the immersive aspect, which is where I kind of landed on the officer training last week. But I think it's smaller hardware. I think that's the only benefit of it, Mm-hmm. I don't know. Those are my thoughts.
I mean, you could do the same thing with your phone. Like,
yeah,
they wouldn't even have to build it to where the headset, where you're looking at your phone and it's giving you the clues and whatever.
No, you're right. So okay, so and I've seen you can at least take, what do they call them? Photo spheres, where you can do like a 360 photo. You can build rooms like that too, can't you? For your phone to kind of explore?
I have no clue.
Okay.
You know what would be really cool, though, is they should do, like, I can't wait till they do it like Star Trek.
Technically, that wasn't any part of the show prep, the question you just asked us.
Well, Mr. Technically, go on, Cynthia.
So,
just deflect.
Tell us more about the replicator.
So, you go into what did they call it? The hologram room?
The holosuite. Holodeck?
The holodeck. Yeah, and that's better virtual than anything else.
I'm always shocked.
It the Blueberry.
The Blueberry? No, that's not it. I've heard it both ways.
But there is a car in Psych named the Blueberry.
Jesus Christ. Thank you for playing along, Cynthia.
Come on, son.
Of course there was. Let's move on from Star Trek and Psych. There's a couple more articles to touch on, and then I'll regale you with my poem. Cynthia, I think it was you, this James Kennedy radio situation.
Yeah.
Was this you?
Okay.
You added this in here? Is there a tie-in to Cynthia, I think it was you, this James Kennedy radio situation.
Yeah.
Was this you?
Okay.
You added this in here? Is there a tie-in to L&D somehow?
Well, yes.
I was looking for it.
And no.
I'm hoping for
Yes
one.
and no.
So, okay, walk us through this from top to bottom.
Actually, there was another person too, okay, who just died
so that
too.
the thousands of Mosby, Mosby army knows what's going on. Can you tell us the whole story?
You know what?
What's
if you
going on?
talked about Big Bird dying last week, I can talk about this.
It was very important to my childhood.
So, okay, so I don't know. Well, back in the early 2000s or something, there were these two movies, and it was back in the time when they were making a lot of football movies. You know, that was like the trend.
Mm-hmm.
And two movies they made was Remember the Titans, right, with Denzel Washington, and then the second movie was with the movie called Radio with Cuba Gooding Jr. Like the last movie he made, Titans. And 2 days earlier, the Radio died.
You think they're connected somehow?
No, I don't think it's connected.
But
But the fun thing, the thing, and okay, so I'm trying to connect it to L&D. But
this might take a while.
But
18 degrees of L&D for football movies.
Well, and the cool thing, if you read the article about Radio dying, is he was what they call, and I can't remember the right wordings, but it's in the article, where he was a perpetual 11th grader. Like, because he was mentally challenged. And
I don't want to say arrested development, but is that
because he was always an 11th grader that was never going to graduate. So from the time he was like young, when they first discovered him and he started doing football and the coach came and got him and stuff, he was still going to school even when he died as an 11th. He was still going to school even when he died as an 11th grader. And he inspired all of these kids throughout the high school years, etc. Excuse me, and stuff. But, it just, if you talk about coaching, and that's like the sports coach, you look at the Remember the Titans coach guy, and you look at the guy who took care of Radio coach. They were tough, but at the same time, they were like compassionate, kind of thing.
Well, that sounds a little like Coach Carter, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't die this week, so not important.
Yet.
Interesting enough, so you brought up the fact that they don't make these movies anymore. Do you know why?
Because they're all Avengers movies?
Because there's no good coaches anymore? I don't know.
No.
Ooh, interesting. I'm sure there's going to be a Sandusky movie at some point here.
Oh, good God. No, the international audience does not like American sporting movies.
So
really? Why?
All movies now are made with the international market in mind.
Oh, I bet specifically China as well.
Yep. So China doesn't play football, so guess what kind of movies you're not going to see football.
So why did they So here's a question. If all movies are made with the international world in mind, why are they still making war movies like Midway and that latest one that came out?
I don't know. Midway.
History movies are huge.
Yeah.
So they're war movies, but they're technically history movies. Like Dunkirk. That movie was gigantic in Europe.
So they're okay with all of that, but they're not okay with American football.
Yep. No, they don't get it.
Yeah, but they don't
get baseball. They don't get football.
I wonder if there's anything else that has to
football. I mean, baseball.
Baseball?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally baseball.
Yeah, Asia gets baseball. I mean, more and more Asians are...
0.0001.
Hey, now.
All right, was there anything else that you wanted to address with Radio, whose real name was...
James Kennedy.
Lavender
James
Gooms.
Radio Kennedy. What did you say? What?
Lavender Gooms?
Lavender Gooms, no. Did you see what his older brother or younger brother's name was? It was Cool Rock? What's going on with these guys? It's like we're reading The Outsiders again.
Oh.
Pony Boy and Soda Pop and stuff.
I have something else too relating to an earlier episode.
Okay. Like going back to a previous Mosby?
Yes. So, remember 69 or 69?
You'll have to help me
tattoo.
out. Oh,
yes.
Yeah, Tekashi 6ix9ine.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's going to jail for 2 years.
Oh, yeah, he's which is surprisingly short for apparently the things he's admitted to. I hear that snitches get stitches, but we'll find out. His dad came out of the woodwork too, eh?
I guess. I don't know.
Matter of time once somebody's in the headlines that their dad that was never there shows up. All right, let's move on to the.
Take care of your finances while you're in jail.
There's so much trust that needs to be instilled there. All right, we're going to move on to the next article, which is, what is this? 6 thinking scaffolds that can move students toward deeper levels of understanding. And this kind of comes to us from a group. Doesn't kind of. It actually comes from a group called Mind Shift. Again, these... is it Mind Shift? I don't know. All right. Either way, the link's going to be found at mosby.ca/015, our Christmas episode here. And so there's 6 things that these folks are saying, and I know that you guys have read this article very thoroughly, so we'll discuss this one in detail.
We should sing some Christmas carols if it's our...
We'll discuss this one in detail.
We should sing some Christmas carols if it's our Christmas episode.
Yeah, maybe we'll save it for the end. Oh, you know what? Why don't we read together 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, a nice bit of Christmas poetry, yes? Does this sound nice? Does this sound enjoyable for everyone? Okay. No. So here's one. And the whole idea is to kind of get students to really think harder, to make more connections, to make stronger and deeper connections with the content that they're consuming right now. And here's one right here. Prompt students to include context. And it continues to say, ask questions that prompt students to include what they already know and emphasize the need to seek out further information or clarification. Now, there's one thing that I've heard recently... One of the things I've heard recently about having constructive conversations, and it's really all about getting the person on the other side of the conversation to make sure that you know what they've said, is to really that they said in words so that you can articulate that you've understood it. And not only by doing that does the other person know that you've understood their message, but you have had to think harder to construct what it is that you're trying to share with them, or that you're trying to understand their point. So that's a valuable thing.
Sales 101.
Kind of like you're saying right now.
Like I'm saying right now. Like I'm saying right now. Exactly. Yeah. So that's a perfect demonstration, I guess.
I like this first one. Like, I think they should remove students and prompt everyone to include context.
just context.
Plucking things out of the ether, and it just helps everybody understand the situation. These 6 items, going through them, nothing's earth-shattering or groundbreaking here, but they are next level, right? They are plucking things out of the ether, and it just helps everybody understand the situation. These 6 items, going through them, nothing's earth-shattering or groundbreaking here, but they are next level, right? They are, not 101 items when you're facilitating a class, or you're prompting people to do that. You've got to go above and beyond the baseline to do these things, and to reach those, to kind of get more out of your folks.
It's really true, and I feel like we're going to see, even in some of these other things, like there's nothing groundbreaking, and you're going to say, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But we don't try hard enough to do some of these things. All right, well, let's jump to the next one there.
Well, a couple things, though.
Let's jump back to the previous one.
Because we're moving too fast.
Is this about James Radio Kennedy again?
No, I'm just giving an overall
James
big
Roday?
picture. You said, we don't apply it, and I was trying to give you reasons why.
Go on.
There, see? Context. Giving you context.
Oh, shit, you did it again, Gibbs?
So, I think there's 2 reasons why it's not applied. A, we're not holding our trainers accountable to it.
Oh, that's interesting.
B, I think we also, or teaching them how to do it, right? And developing how to do it. The second thing I think is, again, we move so fast, and we have to design and develop so fast, and just put stuff together and leverage from other things. and just run. And so it's not enough time to even try to think like this, let alone apply it.
Yeah. Running and gunning, there's an awful lot of that. I kind of like what you said about...
You're foreshadowing something I'm going to bring up later, Gibbs.
Okay.
Nicely done.
Want to go get some jerk chicken?
Yeah, right.
All right. The next. Well, we already talked about asking open. Wait. So we didn't talk about though asking open-ended questions. How do you guys feel about that? See what I did there?
Well, okay. So I'm going to digress.
That was an open-ended question.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'm going to digress.
Got that, Chief.
I should have asked a closed-ended question.
It's amazing how how asking open-ended questions and asking behavioral interviewing questions, you still get the closed-ended answer or the generic answer.
Tell me more about that.
So it's like so doing behavioral interviewing. Behavioral interviewing's been around for how long? Well,
millions of years, I bet.
But on top of that, it's really been put in use probably the last 15 years, etc. So you would think experienced. No, I'm not saying novices. I'm not, or people going to try to get a job at Walmart or McDonald's, but experienced people who've worked in corporate for quite a while would understand how to answer behavioral interview questions.
Now, on that note,
so you're... Go ahead.
Sorry, Dan. On that note, a couple things. Number one, I don't think enough time is spent warming up folks. Right? They come in, especially if they come in with a negative or a zero temperature to the training or to where they're going to be, in the scene there. You got to warm them up to get them to respond the way you want them to. And sometimes we don't have that time thing you were talking about to do that.
Yeah, in the classroom,
but the other thing, absolutely.
Right,
especially in the classroom, especially if you have virtual training. It's a really tough one to do because sometimes they're multitasking and not really paying attention. Unless you have a
relationship. If you have a relationship with them, it's
2 or 3 people out of a class of 20, and I used the conversations with those 2 or 3 folks to warm up the rest of the room and get the conversation going. But the other thing is, I heard on the radio this morning, not to bring him up again, but
radio. My name is radio.
But they were talking about how the time has now eclipsed where people have more non-face-to-face communication than face-to-face communication every single day.
Oh, I saw that on the news today. And did you see how and because people are having less face-to-face, when people do meet face-to-face, there's more conflict.
Yep.
Because
they don't know how to handle it. They don't do it enough.
Yeah, and somebody, is it Amazon or somebody is using Alexa? Who does Alexa?
Amazon.
Okay, so they're figuring out a way where if you're arguing with someone in your household, Alexa will change the off from fighting.
That's funny.
What do you mean? Wait, what?
Yes.
Alexa's always listening. I don't want that thing anywhere near my house.
Look at me being like newsworthy, Dan, this week. I am on fire. Usually it's you and Adam.
Yeah, you're an animal. What is this? Hang on. Oh, it's an Alexa skill. Change the subject. This is messed up, man. Do you need to lighten the... Here's the description from Amazon. Do you need to lighten the mood and find something new to talk about fast? It's time to change the subject. Change the subject is the ultimate skill for starting conversations and keeping things fun. That's what we do here, man. We don't need this frickin' skill. That's what we do. We need a Mosby skill.
Yeah. So let's just not deal with conflict at all.
Well, the conflict comes too from...
I agree.
I talked about this with Dan offline a while back, but how people are creating their own virtual reality by pairing off... pairing off and by segmenting off the things that they don't like. So you go to an online community. I just heard on the radio, people said yesterday Facebook was a real fun place to be. But with the goings on in the United States here.
Not today, it wasn't.
No, yesterday and today. No, yeah. It was sarcasm. There, Gibbs. But no, as you close off and you restrict yourself and turn away from anything that doesn't fit your box, right, of what you like, anytime you go out in the world away from that, the chance of conflict and you not dealing with it well goes up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Which causes all kinds of other things, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's emotional atrophy, right?
Yeah.
That's. I think that's what it is.
It all boils down to that, yeah.
Well, and it goes back to also like I think it was millennials. So, Dan.
Oh, boy. Hey, you know what? It took us almost a half an hour to get to the first generational reference. Thank you.
So
that's a
that age
forward
group,
momentum.
And the after, but they were saying like suicide rates of millennials during college years was higher than previous generations, and that was because they were raised always doing something, like always, like 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week after school, going and being in group things, doing activities, all these things. And so when they got to college and they lost the structure and they were alone and not within groups, they were struggling with depression. And not knowing
a lot of problems,
knowing what to do with themselves, and not knowing how to entertain themselves, and so they
making this Christmas Mosby episode too dark.
Without dark, there is no light.
Yeah,
ain't that the truth? Yes, and I think maybe we're going to start seeing some of that light, and unfortunately, it's probably going to take another half a generation to get there. Maybe it's Generation Alpha that's going to bring us home.
That killed me.
Let's keep moving here. The next one was help students transfer knowledge, and again, this is from what's the headline of this article? 6 thinking scaffolds that move students towards deeper levels of understanding, written by Emily Boudreau from Usable Knowledge. But so help students transfer knowledge and experience. So the continues to say, have students think back to past experiences and information sources like classroom learning. So that's just connecting dots to
That's very similar to using the context, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree.
Or even if you all have any other to say.
Well, so there's context, which is what is the circumstances that I'm solving this problem within, and maybe this is leveraging an existing knowledge set. There's a book that I'm reading right now. I think it's called How People Learn, Design How People Learn, something like that. And one of the things that they talk about is having mental shelves. Like you have this idea of mental shelves, and you say, okay, this is the fabric shelf, or this is the pasta shelf. And so you see a thing and you quickly put it on maybe 1 or 2 shelves, but you categorize it in certain ways. And maybe that's part of this too. I don't know. The next one's interesting. Leave what? Shut up. Leave room for student ownership. I'm not going to read anything else on that. What do you guys think about that idea, though? Ownership of the learner.
Duh.
It's on them. It's their job. They in this case, like you sink or swim of experience at work. That's on you, man. I don't need to. I'll take you pretty far, but at a certain point, I'm going to pat you on the back and say, "Go get it, son."
You know what? Yep. I will say this, though, because I'm on 2 projects right now that we're building, and, we're working with executive sponsors, and their vision, and so everything I'm working on has to answer 2 questions. One of the questions for one of the classes, we are teaching you this topic because this is how it's going to help you have a successful career here at Caliber. Or the other one is, this is going to help you. We need to, everything we teach, like each topic, we need to make sure that we're explaining to them from the get-go. We're teaching you this app because this is how it's going to help you be successful. We need to, everything we teach, like each topic, we need to make sure that we're explaining to them from the get-go. We're teaching you this app because this is how it's going to help you be successful at your job. And so I think while, yes, it takes them to go and apply it, but if we as trainers tell them how it's going to help them from the get-go and keep pushing that, then it will help them to take more ownership.
Yeah. Yep. All right, and next one up, invite and manage risk. Allow students to take risks by not immediately dismissing wrong answers. Now, this is interesting. This kind of ties into what we were talking about earlier with, just with a generation that may have been coddled a bit too much, where everybody's ego was stroked continually and they were never left alone to try to solve a problem. But to manage risk in the classroom. So let me ask you guys both, since you're both learning professionals. When you have people give you an incorrect answer in the classroom, maybe Eli, I'll start with you. How do you handle that?
It depends on how wrong the answer is.
So at what point do you get to openly mocking them? Where does that happen?
After.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. No, like if someone gets me something, it can be 2% of a right answer.
Mm-hmm.
I get part of it. I'm not lying.
Yeah.
And then I let the rest of the class fill the rest of the percentage up, right?
Okay.
So that's what I usually do. Now, if it's completely wrong, I'll be like, all right. I'll kind of rephrase the question again. I won't say you're wrong, but I'll kind of rephrase it, like shuffle the deck again with the question and re-bring it back up and have hopefully somebody else jumps in and we can go from there.
Yeah, so that sounds like you almost take ownership over the incorrect answer. And I don't
maybe
think
that was my fault. I didn't phrase the question right, so I kind of...
You give him a bit of an out.
Yep.
Yeah. No, that seems like a classy thing to do. Gibbs, how about you? Do you handle incorrect answers? How do you handle them?
I give the monkey...
Well, that's an open-ended question.
I give the monkey to the other participants.
You just let them tear that
So what do you all
chimp
think
apart.
of John's answer?
Who wants to point out how stupid John's answer was?
Especially now that I trained sales, it's so much easier.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, the last one, encourage reflection. Do you, both of you, Gibbs, I'll start with you this time. How much do you spend reflecting on the things you've done?
Well, that's not
Gibbsy?
what this is about. It's about doing a debrief at the end of the class. Instructors can ask students about their performance, thought process, the outcomes, and their feelings. So we're helping them reflect, not us reflect upon ourselves.
I think we just learned a little something about you, Gibbs.
What? I can read?
Oh, no. Well... Yeah, I guess.
You know what I mean? Well, if we're talking about the article, right?
Well, we started talking about the article, and then we kind of took it in whatever direction you felt appropriate, I guess.
With my personality style, I am a huge reflector. I'm very self-aware. And when I make a mistake or I don't think I said something correctly, etc., it'll bother me for the next 3 days. And usually I'll go and try and change it, or I'll go and try to right the wrong. I just have I have about 7 Jiminy Crickets living in me.
What does that mean?
Pinocchio. Jiminy Cricket. Conscious.
6? You could call an exterminator.
Having a conscious.
So noisy.
You have
you leave too many crumbs out.
Now you need to go take your kid and watch Pinocchio.
All right, the last article that I am going to touch on is one called the Pentagon Eyes Big Expansion of Foreign Military Training Programs. Now, this seems to be also one of the avenues that some of our articles go down, and it's based on the keywords I'm using to search things. But military training is definitely an aspect that we look at here. So this is in response to this article, the actions that kind of, I guess, brought this article to us, where there was a shooting recently at a military training base in
Pensacola.
Pensacola, there you go. And it was a Saudi national that was invited in to hang out and train with the military, and then, I guess he had a change of heart. And I
don't think he had a change of heart.
What's that?
I don't think he had a change of heart.
Oh, you know. Oh, okay. He just changed his presentation,
His mask.
I guess.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. To L&D, as far as making sure that the people that are in your program are appropriate for the program. But any thoughts that you guys have on vetting applicants or people that register for programs?
I don't know why we're talking about vetting. There's not even any animals here.
All right.
I mean, it's the same with recruiting, right? You got to build that persona and really build out that persona and profile that you want with each person, and do the right assessments, do the right pre-assessments, like the ones you love, Dan. Do the right questioning and the right test before you make a decision. I mean, there's always going to be a few bad seats. And
the problem right now is with it's a problem of something that's good is that in the United States right now the unemployment rate is so low that that most of your available, like readily available candidates for entry-level positions and such things like that. I was reading an article the other day. They're people that normally wouldn't even have jobs.
Yep.
So they're highly unreliable. They are highly unmotivated. So the folks that you're getting the most contacts on, if you're a recruiter or if you're a hiring manager, are folks that you got to screen like crazy because you might be wasting money. And if you have a job and you want to get a new job, it's a great time for you, because in order to get you to jump from one job to the next, it's a bidding war right now because there's no one out there to fill those positions out on the open market. So you've got to pull them from somewhere where they're already there for a reason, right? They're a reason.
Speaking of money, and speaking of job hopping. So myself and a friend were having a conversation this week about how
we get it. You've got friends.
Well, like one, and that person has to be my friend because I've known him forever. But we were talking about, how everyone still talks about attrition. Everyone still talks about, how much money it costs to lose people that you hired. Yet many people today, millennials, tend to only stay at jobs for 2.5 years and job hop. And that's what's expected now. But how do you keep the people who are old school like me? And while I probably won't retire at the company I'm at right now, but at the same time, I'm coming up on 3.5 years. How does that not matter?
You getting the itch? Is that what you're saying?
No. So what I'm saying is,
Adam,
does that not matter anymore? Does that not matter anymore? Because people are job hopping so much.
I wonder if it's so you're saying, does your track record matter because there's so many people out there on the market that are job hopping? Does a 3-year stint look bad anymore? Is that what you're saying?
Not even bad, or 5-year stint or 9-year stint. And so a lot of what millennials have figured out is if I job hop, then I can go make more money. And the people that stayed at companies are maybe getting merit increases or bonuses, but not if they job hopped. But is the concern no longer who cares about attrition?
I mean, I would think, and I'm not in that position, but I would care definitely about attrition. I think that especially in certain skill sets, if you get somebody who does the job well and is ascending the way that you want them, you'd want to keep them and do anything you can. And the different generations look at it differently, right? So, generations above that millennial generation.
I think you're just trying to trigger me.
No, I'm not actually. But they're not carrying the debt, the student loan debt that the younger generations are, because it just went up like a hockey stick. So they're job hopping because every job hop they get and every percentage they get and jump in their salary allows them theoretically, whether they do it or not, helps them either step out of debt or help them breathe easier.
That's interesting.
So that's why might be one of the reasons why. I mean, I haven't read anything on it. I haven't done anything easier.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
So that's why, might be one of the reasons why. I mean, I haven't read anything on it. I haven't done any studies, any Harris polls or anything on it. But I would assume that has something to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's interesting, the idea that they're just trying to get breathing room, and that's why they're willing to job hop. So, I find myself...
Or is it because younger generations like movement?
Well,
that can be part of the two things can be true at once. You're going to hear me say that a lot, Gibbs.
Yeah.
It's like my new phrase. But yeah, I mean, it's part of the cake, right? It's part of the reason why those generations do the things that they do is because they like the movement and they're trying to get away from they're trying to get a little breathing room between them and their debt.
That's interesting. All right.
They heard about
Hey
Dan, they heard about Pluto. It's messed up, right?
It's messed up, man.
That's messed up.
Is that a labradoodle?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move on to the next. There's actually, there's 3 more things that we need to talk about. Minimum 3, and the next one is going to be something that I have prepared for
is
for
it
our
poem time?
listeners. It's poem time.
I was trying so
Poetry
hard.
corner.
I was trying so hard not to get there. Just stall.
You can't.
Are you wearing a beret?
You can't avoid it. No.
Are there
but I'm
candles
smoking
lit?
a cigarette now. I've dimmed the lights. Okay.
In your
coffee shop
in your
time.
IT crowd office.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I really like the audio medium is because people can't see what sort of hot mess I'm doing this in right now. We've recently, to peek behind the curtain here, peek behind the microphone, I guess. We've recently relocated, and it's just like it's a flippin' mess here. But you don't know that. You're only assuming that because it's all the theater of the mind. Speaking of which, this is a poem called One Last Thing, and it doesn't have to do with Christmas. It doesn't have to do with anything we've talked about so far, but it does have to do with training and working with subject matter experts. So this may sound familiar. I was thinking about this. I wrote this a while ago, but I went back and checked the notes, so I don't think we've done this one. I'll just go ahead and jump in.
Was it in your field notes book?
This, you mean my Moleskine 8.5 by 5 blue notebook? No. Yeah, actually it was. Okay, here we go. Let's design instruction, said the trainer to the SME, but how to solve your problem, close your gap, expertly. Here are all my notes, replied the SME to the trainer. Maybe a short video, just a quick explainer. But I can take a crack. And so our training specialist left the meeting worried. He needed a solution of some kind, and he felt hurried. ASAP, had said the client. It has to be right now. Well, end of week, this month at least. By Q2, anyhow. And so the journey of our hero began with brainstorming. 3 minutes worth of scribbling. A stomach knot was forming. Unclear was the trainer on what the SME best meant. A corporate ultimatum. Return on investment. Stories anecdotal was all he had to go on, but without proof and pudding, his employment would be withdrawn. The SME said, hey, don't sweat it, just make this client happy. In 1 month of development, he produced something snappy. He seemed to capture everything from all the notes he'd read. The betas seemed to like it. Nice job, you got everything in it. But could you try to cut it down to just under a minute? And that's
Please,
that's
Dad,
a bit of a callback. What?
Under a minute.
Yeah, that's a bit of a callback to just a ridiculous request to keep things under a minute for absolutely no goddamn reason. But for some reason, it keeps coming up. So that's one. I've titled that 3 different things.
I've heard that there's certain generations have shorter attention. The modern learner isn't available to have the attention span for that.
Well, and it used to be 4 hours. Now it's like 2 that people retain what they learned.
It's garbage.
Yeah, 2 hours maybe.
It's made up.
No.
They made it up.
Not even close.
Like nano learning.
Oh,
8 seconds.
That's
I've
why
heard 8
Adam likes
seconds.
you.
That's well, Anyhow, okay. So that was that. The other thing that I did want to touch on, and this is more of a seasonal activity or a seasonal concept, and then we have one more thing to chat about before we wrap stuff up here. And this is kind of a can training fix it. Now we're at the Christmas season here, and what I'm thinking is you guys both sound like kind of advanced shoppers on some level, but it seems that every single year. Okay, so maybe you're part of the problem then, Gibbs, and we could talk about this. Maybe we can see if we would fix your problem. The idea is last minute shopping, though. It was like it's a thing. Like I'm not just saying this because you happen to not be a great shopper. There are millions of people that seem to do this last-minute shopping thing. So I'm wondering, is this something that training can fix? What do you guys think? So hang on. First off, let me ask, is this a problem? And then we can jump into if it's a problem that needs to be solved.
You need to, define what problem is. Is it getting in the way of other family activities? Right? Then it's a problem. But if it's not, then it's not. No, my dad is notoriously get me a list, on November 1st.
Wow.
And okay. But then he doesn't shop until now.
Hmm.
So he's been under the radar the past few days because he's out tying everything out.
He's out scrambling.
I've actually heard people who like it. Who like the last
people
minute
love
shopping.
The rush. They love the beating of the clock.
No, that's right.
I'll tell you right now, I do my best work when I see the finish line.
Yeah, that's true too. A deadline does encourage
I do
activity.
My best work on anything, whether it be working on the house, whether it be trying to get here and we want to clean the house up before people come over, whether it's cooking for company, whether it's doing a project for my job, or working on tying flies. I do my best work when I see the finish line.
Now, okay, hang on. So when you say you see the finish line, that's not okay. I see. April 1st, I gotta have this thing wrapped up because you can see it. It needs to be within arm's reach. So,
you gotta be
you gotta be sweaty a little bit.
Sweaty a little bit, but you gotta be
If you lose 40 pounds, you wait till the week before to reach your goal.
Well, that's impractical. That's proven not to be able to done. But almost everything else, if you're talking about cleaning, if you're talking about doing a project, working on a project, if you're talking about shopping, things that have that you can check off that list and get it done in one fell swoop, then but losing weight would not fall in that category.
Now, we shouldn't pretend that maybe there's certain people out there that have tried to fit into a dress before a particular special day that maybe have been hitting the gym wearing
tears were
bag.
shed that day.
I mean, people do intense things when that goal is within arm's reach, or when it's when you're going to run into that brick wall and you got to make sure you can shimmy past it there. Okay.
If you want to hear something really, really funny, this is I'm going to pimp another podcast here, but years ago, it was probably 4 years ago, there was a contest between two comedians on the Joe Rogan podcast, Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura, about losing weight. And one of them did it the slow and steady way, and the other one tried to do it all in the last 3 weeks. Oh, and he was eating 450 calories a day, and
so not good.
wearing a sweatsuit, one of those rubber suits.
Yep.
And
gross.
But to hear them both tell the story, incredible audio theater.
We're getting there. We're not there yet. We're getting there.
Live on podcast.
Well, not yet. I mean, that's going to be season 2 if I believed in seasons. I don't get seasons with podcasts. So somebody help me understand what the hell this is about. Why? Oh, it's a thing.
It helps them remember
so
what year they've done it.
No, I consume a lot of podcasts, and I've never heard that terminology.
So
maybe it's a Canadian thing.
No, it's the ones that you listen to are not inspired by NPR. I think that's part of the problem. So there's this whole
that's true.
So podcasts seems to have had a re-revolution in the past 2 years. You know, they started about 10 years ago, and then you had the Steady Eddies that started back then. There was a few people, and then it kind of ramped up for a couple of years, and then there was a slow climb, a very, very slow climb, and then there was a hockey stick, and that's when NPR realized that they could put their dead voices on
and Adam likes
the internet.
That crap.
There's a lot of also crime stuff now too, so they'll dig into like a particular crime or a murder set, and that'll be season X.
I guess I could see that. Like if you think of like Dan Carlin's Hardcore History or History on Fire, like because he does record all those in like a booklet, like a set, and then he releases them. So I could see that in those types of podcasts. But anything you're talking about current events like this, like you can't do seasons. No. But if you were doing like seasons. History or talking about certain things in a war or crime and things like that, where you're going back to a segment in history where current events have zero impact on what you're talking about, I could see using seasons that way.
All right. Take it all back.
I can see an argument for them. But I could see using seasons that way.
All right. Take it all back.
I can see an argument for them. But
that's what drives me nuts about you.
But that's like 90% of podcasts plus do not fall in that category.
I don't know, man. I don't know. All right. Luckily, that's not our problem that we have to solve.
Exactly.
One thing that I do want to talk about. Yeah. The last thing that we're going to talk about today, ladies and gentlemen, is the, and again, if you want to download, and you know, sometimes people get this podcast through a link that might get put out on social media or something. And you're like, how do I subscribe to this? You can find us on Google Podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, on, oh boy, several places. Adam's actually the keeper of all the places, but we're in a lot of different places. Castbox, that's another one. Castbox, yeah, that's another one. So we're all over the place, but you can get the show notes and of course all the Castbox, yeah, that's another one. So we're all over the place, but you can get the show notes and of course all the articles that we're talking about here. Mosby.ca/015, and the big thing that I want to talk about today is if you guys, because this is the episode that's going to come out around Christmas, so if you had like a Christmas list for what's the kind of the L&D toy that you are looking for, and you know, maybe Santa doesn't bring it, but if he did, what would you ask him? If you were sitting on the big man's lap, taking a picture at the mall, what would you ask him for?
It smells like beef and cheese.
What?
Have you not seen Elf?
It's been a long time.
Oh, come on!
I'm sorry.
It's the greatest Christmas movie ever.
I know. Well, 'tis the season. Maybe I'll get back at it. All right, Gibbs, if you got a new L&D toy, what would it be?
I don't know if it's so much a toy as just as far as my projects being successful next year.
Yeah. Okay. So that's it's not exactly what I was looking for.
But
okay.
That's what I need.
So hang on. So that means that you are content with having the tools that you have access to, the resources that you have access to. There is not a tool that you think could make you a little bit more effective.
And you gotta remember, I've been in training since 1997.
Yes, we've heard this.
So I have survived without even a computer to train. So
you're overselling that.
Yeah. So, I mean,
when they were drawing buffaloes on cave walls.
Yeah, I mean, I had the transparency thing with the Vice of Ice. Yeah, I mean,
back in my day, we didn't even have computers.
Yeah, no, I mean, we had AS400. Come on. And that's how
I remember the AS400.
Yeah, I mean, we have laptops and do the transparency things.
All right,
so for me,
Gibbs,
it's like
you're more than happy to settle. We get it.
Yeah, it's not that I'm selling. It's just like, there's nothing, I've survived without needing all the stuff. And I know learners change,
etc. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But it's Christmas, for God's sakes. I'm just saying, ask for a frickin' robot.
Shoot for the stars.
What do you want? Yeah.
No, I just need these projects to be successful. That's what I want.
I don't think the big man can help you with those. All right, Mr. Berant, anything that you're mildly interested in getting from Santa
I want
Claus?
more of one thing and less of another.
What's the less of?
Email.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's not going to happen.
Oh, no,
What's
it's not.
What's your email address?
No, yeah.
Oh, I have it now. Now that I think about it.
I'll get you to my burner email address.
What's the what you want more of?
The wasteland. I want more time. I want more time to develop my projects, systems. We've got a new e-learning platform we've come out with that. I made the jump from Captivate to Articulate, and it's a great system. I just don't know enough about it yet, and how to, it's been. I wish I had more time to learn. I wish I had more time in the classroom. Wish managers would give their folks more time. I wish salespeople especially would.
Okay. You got would want to spend more time.
No, time. I was extremely vague and open for a reason. But yeah, just time, man. It's just it's the thing that everyone has in common. We all have 24 hours in a day.
Oh, he's getting all philosophical like you, Dan.
It's the great equalizer. Time is the great equalizer.
That's
the
why
richest
people
man.
Tune in.
The richest man is the great equalizer.
That's
the
why
richest
people
man.
Tune in.
The richest man and the poorest man have the same amount of time in a day.
He's all like philosophical, like your elevator story or escalator story.
My escalator story. That was a good story. I always felt that was a strong close to our sessions.
So
maybe.
Speaking of stories, I got a great story that I used. We talked earlier about warming a group up, like getting them to be more open.
Yeah. And I drew a little picture of a fish in a bag in a tank of water based on that.
Oh, interesting. But my story that I use in my trainings, that's self-deprecating. It's hilarious. So me and the kids, we always watched American Ninja Warrior was a favorite show for the kids. So we go downstairs and watch it in the basement because it's nice and cool in the summer. And one day I was playing with my boys, and my back was to the TV, and Jeopardy is on before American Ninja Warrior. So it's on to my back. I'm watching my kids playing with my kids, and I'm listening to the questions, and I got like 1, 2, 3, 4 right in a row, right?
Ooh.
I'm like, man, I'm on fire. I'd never get like 4 in a row. 6, 7, 8. I'm like crushing it, right?
What was the topic?
Hold on. Let me tell the story. So I got to like 10, 12, 13 questions in a row right. And I'm like, this has never happened before in my life. 14th question, I get right. Turn around, it's Kids Week.
But I can't even get Kids Week right. They're smarter than me nowadays.
So this story, it gets that reaction that Dan just had, and it literally brings me and the class closer together.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden they're open and they're talking. The minute that story goes out, I fire that story out there and I do that. It brings us all together because they see it and then they see me like, oh, wah, like, yeah. But it works.
No, I think there's really something significant to the shared experience if you can kind of make a team out of everybody. That and I think laughter is a great way to do that. Good on you, man. All right, I was just gonna say I wanted like a Beyond license so I could make animated videos, but now I sound like a superficial jackass.
Man, you must have all kinds of time, and your projects must be amazing,
right? You
know it. I run a tight ship, bro.
World of Hurt, man. You got time for World of Hurt? Let's get it cranking out again.
Oh, World of Hurt. That was so. For those that weren't there for that minute of time 4 years ago, it was a very brief period where I had a small cartoon. It was a flurry of cartoons that I had drawn that they didn't really have a thread going through them aside from they were all tongue-in-cheek. But yeah, I should bring those back. They just took so damn long because I'm not an artist. I have to try real hard at that stuff. So now I write poetry. Close on that good story where Eli's smarter than a 5th grader. And what we'll do, ladies and gentlemen, is we will have all these show notes for you at mosby.ca/015. Eli, how do you want folks getting a hold of you should they want to do that?
They want to check out my fly fishing stuff and my flies that I tie. Always Great Lakes Fly on Instagram.
GLF, yeah.
Or I guess I'm on LinkedIn. not really happy about it, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
That's right, man. Hey, that's
I haven't
exactly
got a single text about me being on LinkedIn since I did that from you. So.
Oh no?
No, from you. No.
Oh. Well, yeah, that's because I can reach you on Instagram now because I'm on Instagram, and it's reluctant, and I already regret it. But there I am. Yeah, so if you want to find me on Instagram, Dan Talks Training, or Twitter, Dan Talks LN. The letter N is in name. Also on LinkedIn. I got a pretty strong LinkedIn game. That's kind of my wheelhouse there because it's just L&D stuff, and I don't have to worry about things like all the fun stuff. Like we talked about last week with perennium sunning.
That was... I can't even believe that made the cut. That was out of bounds.
It should have been.
Don't you have an editor?
Make the rules here.
Nope. No, that's Dan.
Maybe we should. Yeah, and you can follow us on Twitter, Mosby Learning, at Mosby Learning. Gibbs, how do you want folks getting a hold of you?
LinkedIn.
And GIBBS, yeah?
13,000 of my followers. Connections.
Yeah, that doesn't seem quite right, but we'll roll with it.
It is.
Music today was from Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to us. I hope your Christmas goes well, or if you celebrate, or if you don't. Hey, if you don't, I still want to thank you so much for listening to us. I hope your Christmas goes well, or if you celebrate, or if you don't. Hey, if you don't, I still want the 25th to go well for you and everybody that you know. So I hope you get what you ask for, even if it is more time. All right, thank you for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I'll take care of your finances.
Is there a tie-in to L&D somehow?
No.
Does this sound enjoyable for everyone?